Hey troops, Bob from the Truth GC. This is episode 7, Debunking Marketing the Messiah. Check it out.
The most important thing to know is that there was no agreed standard of what being a good Jew was in the first century.
Just like there are hundreds of different versions of Christianity today, and they all think that they're the right one, we know that in the first century there were lots of different versions of Judaism as well.
Here's a point that they're simply exaggerating. There was only 4 sects of Judaism during Jesus' time on the earth. The Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Essenes, and the Zealots. That's all. And these different groups, of course, were certainly different. The Sadducees were more secular, kind of worked with the Roman government. They didn't believe in the resurrection. The Pharisees were all about the laws and rule keeping, the legalists. Then you had the Essenes, which were kind of spiritual, a lot of fasting, a lot of, not marrying and doing kind of monk type stuff. And then, of course, the Zealots were the political, rebellious individuals assassinating political Romans that they disagreed with. So they do this exaggeration to try to get it confusing, like they really were all over the map and didn't have a rudders in their boat going any one direction. But they had the scriptures to look at, and the scriptures clearly explain who the Messiah is.
And they were all trying to figure out the magic trick to get them back into Yahweh's good book.
This is a situation that is eventually going to be rectified by God. Destroy the Roman oppressors, think end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, for instance, where the fire comes down and burns up all the Nazis. That's probably the view that a decent number of Jews had.
Reading prophecy in the Old Testament, like in the book of Joel, is kind of like looking across a plain and seeing a mountain range. But the fact of the matter is you're seeing a second mountain range at the same time with another large plain in between. See, these gaps of time are hard to perceive when you're reading this text and you're seeing that these prophecies are stacked right on top of each other. The fact of the matter is Jesus the Messiah comes twice. First time to seek and save that which is lost, which is deliver the gospel and show people the way back to the Father. And the second time to judge the living and the dead and to rescue the Jews from being surrounded by all their enemies.
Now, some Jews living in the first century believed that God was going to send someone to save them. They called that person the Messiah.
So how do you know who's a Messiah? Different people will give you different answers, and there are different messianic candidates to follow.
I'm just looking for the official guide to knowing who the chosen one is. I'm sure it's got to be in here somewhere.
There's no messianic checklist in Judaism, as if make sure your mother is a virgin when you're conceived, walk on water, raise the dead, die a sacrificial death, come back after 3 days and ascend. Some Jews were expecting a shepherd, others were expecting the angel Michael, still others were expecting a priest, and still others a warrior. Some people thought John the Baptist was the Messiah, and he doesn't fit any of those categories.
So after exaggerating about the amount of sects there are in Judaism, they've now set the stage to then boldly lie and say that the Bible doesn't clearly explain to the Jewish people what to look for in regards to a Messiah. Now, here's a video I did a few years ago on a college campus in regards to reading Isaiah 53. Check it out, and I think you clearly see that it is describing Jesus wholeheartedly.
Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we were healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way. The Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Okay, where do you think that's found? Where's that text?
In the Bible.
I don't know. Oh, that's right. Probably the Bible. Yeah.
Probably the Bible. Okay.
Sounds like someone in the Bible. Sounds like it might be from the Bible.
Sounds like it's from the Bible. Okay.
I'm not sure. I think if you're asking, then it seems that the Bible would be in sort of the simplest, which probably may not be the correct one. I feel.
I don't know.
I feel the fact that you ask makes it like a trick question that it's probably from another source.
Obviously had rhetoric about Jesus Christ, right? He's the Christian God, so it's probably a Christianity.
Okay, cool. Do you think it's the Old Testament or New Testament?
New Testament, because Jesus was in the New Testament.
New Testament. All right.
It seemed like it was too.
It seemed like you would have to have hindsight to be that accurate. I think
New Testament.
New Testament because it's talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
Cool.
It sounds like an Old Testament thing. Probably Old Testament.
Old Testament?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And who do you think it's talking about?
Jesus.
Jesus?
Yeah. No, wait. Well, in the Old Testament they don't really know about Jesus, so I guess God himself.
No, but it was like he died for us.
Oh wait, is it really?
Yeah. So it's Jesus.
Oh, so maybe talking about the Messiah coming. Yes. Wouldn't it be New Testament then?
Yeah, New Testament.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah,
New
let's go with
Testament.
that.
Yeah.
New Testament.
So now you're thinking the New Testament instead of the Old Testament?
The New Testament, most likely.
Now, Reilly, would you be impressed to know that it was actually written 700 years before Christ was born? The
Really?
prophet Isaiah wrote it. It's Isaiah 53, 6 through like 8 or 9. Isn't that kind of impressive?
Oh, cool.
Is that kind of trippy?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you be surprised or impressed to know that it was written actually 700 years before Christ was born?
You know what? I don't really know that much about the Bible, man. I studied when I got confirmed, but then after that, I was just like, this is kind of an ancient text. I might take a course. It's interesting, but I just haven't really looked at it.
Well, fair enough. But you said you think it's talking about Jesus, right?
Dude, I didn't even listen to it, to be honest.
Is that kind of impressive? Yes, but you don't want it to be, right?
I don't know. It's impressive, yeah.
Okay. His own father poured his wrath on him, which is the pain of hell and punishment. Then 3 days later he rose to prove that he had the power of resurrection. And 2,000 years ago, we're still talking about the fact that he resurrected. I would like you to really consider revisiting your childhood faith. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Repent and trust what Christ did on the cross.
Okay.
Thanks, dude.
Nice to meet you.
All right, 2 things you got to do to be saved. What were they?
Repent and
Trust what Christ did on the cross.
exactly.
All right, Andre.
I can't emphasize enough what a blatant lie it is to say that the Old Testament doesn't have hundreds of passages pointing to the Messiah and that Jesus fulfilled hundreds of them. Just go to a Google search and just say prophecies fulfilled by Jesus, and you'll see a list of Old Testament passages and New Testament passages that match up and show fulfillment. It's so blatantly obvious and easy to cross-check what I'm saying right here. Jesus fulfills the Messiah's definition and actions and descriptions clearly all through his life. Hope you enjoyed this. This is the end of episode 7. I'm going to continue to make more.